Thank you for coming. I'd like to thank Rocket Space for letting us this space this afternoon. And I have Todd here to speak a little bit of what Rocket Space does. And
hello, first and welcome everyone to Rocket Space. How many people have been to Rocket Space before, out of curiosity? Oh, okay. A handful. So for those that this is your first time to Rocket Space is a technology accelerator. We focus on young technology startups, but at a slightly later stage. So companies that get into Rocket Space have to be formally seed funded, and there's an application process. And then once you're in the program, we help companies around growth. So when you're actually building a company, there's sort of three fundamental things you need. You need free cash flow, which many times comes from venture financing. You need team and talent, and you need customers and users. So we have focused programs that help companies through growth around all those areas. If you look on the pillars around you, these are just some of the companies that currently started in Rocket Space or are still in Rocket Space. So companies like Spotify are upstairs, Domo started in here, so Uber started in here, Zarly started in here, so a lot of fun companies you guys might have heard of either started or are still in Rocket Space. So if you have any more questions, feel free to grab myself or anyone of the staff. We can give you some more information on Rocket Space.
all right, thank you, Todd. For those of you that don't know, my name is Fernando, and I'm part of the Startup Dream Team. The Startup Dream Team is a program made up of 30 entrepreneurs that live together in the startup house and has an environment highly favorable for entrepreneurial thinking, brainstorming, forming teams, and exchanging skills and ideas. We also make a hackathon almost every week, and we have a speaker series, which is made up of Mike May, Paul's Will Young, and of course Robert Scoble. Robert Scoble goes around the world interviewing startups and entrepreneurs, and he'll talk a little bit more of himself and what he does right now.
It's a real honor being here talking to all of you. And I was wondering how I could add some value to you. We could talk about PR and how blogging works and how to get your startup noticed, I guess, later. But I thought I would challenge you to build something new and see where that goes. And I would challenge you to make San Francisco the first contextual city, or the first city that's contextually ready. And what do I mean by that? Soon, I'm going to get these new Google Glasses. And these Google Glasses are going to have several things in them. They're going to have a compass, a GPS, so it's going to know where I'm standing right here. It's different than standing over there. It's going to have a microphone, a front-facing camera, so I can face detect on you. Think about that one. There's already an Israeli company that already sold to Facebook called Face.com that could do that. Right? It can sense the Wi-Fi or the Bluetooth signals going through the room. Right? There's a radio to sense some of that. I'm not sure what radios are going to be on the glasses. I assume they're going to be at least a low-power Bluetooth that will talk to my phone in my pocket, but I would also assume that that thing will be able to sense Wi-Fi and regular Bluetooth. What else is going to be in those glasses? Maybe a barometer. I don't know that they're going to fit some of the other more esoteric sensors onto it, but basically it's a cell phone chipset that's sitting over here with a touchpad that you touch to scroll through the UI. But all the demos we've seen are not what we think Google is really working on, and what I'm already hearing other startups are working on. And I've started putting something together because I just had a conversation with Mark Andreessen and also with Ron Conway, and they're excited by the space, and they're starting to key in on things that are happening. Face.com is a good one, but there's something coming at us, and Google's Google Now tells us that this new contextual world is coming closer. Google Now, for instance, tells me, oh, I have a meeting in an hour, so I better leave right now because the traffic is bad on the way to wherever my next meeting is. It already knows the context of where I am, right? That I'm leaving from here, going to there. and is telling me something about what's going on in between. I used Waze on the way here, and I switched freeways because I usually go 280, but I saw there was a bunch of traffic on 280, so I switched over to 101, which was a less trafficked freeway tonight. We're already building lots of systems. SRI, the guys who developed the mouse, developed Siri, are working on a new contextual calendaring system that looks at your calendar and tells you all sorts of fun stuff. And think about how much stuff is in your email and your calendar. Things like phone numbers that you didn't put in the calendar item, addresses. But they are pulling out even more. They're looking at things like travel time, things like what kind of context is going to be on your calendar. If you're having a lunch meeting at a restaurant, that's a different context than if you're having a meeting here at Rocket right? And we're already seeing some other things happen. Highlight, for instance, is on my phone, and it's spraying to all of you. If you're on Highlight, it says, oh, you're in the same space as me, right? And think about these Google Glasses. I'm going to walk in, and I'm going to know who's here, what kind of people are here. Are they executives? Are they students? Are they... And I'm already seeing this with Highlight as I walk around New York. I can tell that the network in New York on Highlight was different than the network in San Francisco. And I can look at all sorts of contextual things about people, their likes, and we can go through somebody's likes and tell what kind of person they are. Okay, let's do that, just for fun. Get in this mood of contextual computing. And let me just pull up Highlight and see somebody random on here. So I see a Sebastian Bell is here. Victor Obenau. All right. So you are a very unusual Facebook user.
Oh boy.
You have no likes and you have no friends in common with me. That means you're not in the Silicon Valley network very strongly. And you're not a Facebook user at all. I think you probably joined Facebook because of this app.
I don't know. I have over 500 friends and a ton of likes. Thanks to you, I'm actually.
Well, then there's just a bug. There might be a bug that it's not
might
showing
be.
you. Let me just refresh again. Yeah, there's a bug. There's a bug in the system, which that tells you something, right? Because I have 5,000 likes. If I don't see common likes in common with you, I can tell what kind of Facebook user you are, and let's just look for something more fun. My son was near me. Oh yeah, there is definitely a bug. All the likes and everything are away. Anyways, he has 50 mutual friends and 50 things in common with me, and he's a somewhat light user of Facebook. I can tell somebody who's really a heavy user, like Dave McClure, has 700 things in common with me and 900 friends in common with me, or even more maybe now. And you can tell just by his liking behavior on Facebook that he's an extraordinarily heavy user of Facebook. So I've visited 5,000 people's profile pages lately on Facebook, trying to see how people are, and it's probably because of Highlight, because I'm playing around with this idea of context in my head. And what can I learn from you, from your publicly available information, right? And where was I going with that? Out of the 5,000 people, all of whom are in the industry, because it's who I got to visit, right, my friends, most only had 25 likes, and I have 5,100 likes right now. So most people only had 10 to 50 likes, somewhere in that range. Only a couple people had more than 1,000. What's interesting, and I should pull up Facebook so you can see my Facebook page. We'll just talk about it a little bit more. As you like more things, and as you tell Facebook more about what you want to see, as you join more interest lists, which are pretty new, it brings more media to you that's more interesting to you. In other words, it's a new kind of media system that serves media to you based on who you are. The more you tell Facebook about it, about yourself, the more it serves you. And these Google Glasses are going to be the same way. these Google Glasses, if you tell it more about you, like if you let it check in at dinner, it'll serve you. It'll know your dinner patterns. And then it'll say, oh, you like barbecue and Italian and Mexican. Here's the 3 places within walking distance of here that serves that need. And this is, when I talk about this kind of new world that we're heading toward, it makes people uncomfortable. I call it over the freaky line. Because this is not what people expected to do on Facebook, right? When they got on Facebook, they didn't expect to have a media engine that serves media to them based on who they are. Most people don't even think of Facebook that way. Most people think of, oh, Facebook's just where I go to see my kids' photos or my drinking buddies' photos or whatnot. And you can sort of see, as you like more things, the media that's coming into my view along here is in real time, includes people and brands, and is being picked for me by Facebook's engine. Facebook does not show me every like or every piece of data going on in the 5,000 people that I'm studying here, or the 5,000 likes. It filters down what it thinks is going to be important to me. And you can argue whether it does it well or not. Sometimes it does it really well. Sometimes it doesn't do it so well. But this real-time system is going to be in the Google Glasses. And it's going to be, as I walk around, I'm going to get news shown to me in context of where I am, what my behavior is. So it's going to know if I'm running or skiing or driving or sitting. It's probably going to know I'm sitting in my couch in front of my entertainment system, which means it needs to show different things into my glasses than if I'm in the kitchen cooking. Now, will the first pair of Google Glasses know that all that context? Probably not, but I think the reason that they sold them to the developers a year early is to try to get the developers to build apps that will start to build some of these use cases. So coming soon, also my friend around the corner was on the first iPhone team, and he's studying stuff like this. Says, oh, coming soon is low-power Bluetooth objects that you can place in your house. Something like a Nest thermostat, right? So as you walk toward your house, your glasses could say, hey, he's coming home. Turn on the air conditioning or turn off the heat or whatever it wants, whatever you programmed it to do. But you're going to have a variety of those kinds of objects in your house that your glasses are going to key in on. So it's probably going to know you're in your kitchen within 5 years. And it's probably going to know you're in your entertainment center. I mean, Google's already trying to sell me a ball that I leave in my entertainment center. It's not too far. It's not too far-fetched to think about the radios that ball is going to have in it that's going to talk to my glasses and understand how far away you are from that ball. And it'll know within a pretty good degree of accuracy that you're within 10 feet of that thing, or 20 or 50 feet, right? Already I'm using an app called PlayStation on my phone that is already studying every sensor 24 hours a day. And it's already throwing that data up to the cloud. This app was written by the guy who ran Google Maps for 4 years. The pretty smart guy. It already automatically checks me in today. And it already has checked me in here because I've been standing here and it already knows that I'm here. It is also capturing my patterns through life. These patterns could turn into algorithms that turn into, oh, you're running. Oh, you're riding a bicycle. And if you watch what Google's employees have been doing with these glasses on, they've been sampling data in numerous different contexts. They've been riding bikes, running races, and they haven't told us what they're doing. They're capturing samples so that they can, when you get on your bike with these Google glasses, it's going to know within a few seconds that you're riding a bike, and it's going to bring you data based on you riding a bike. Like it'll talk to the Nike fuel band system. and it'll bring you data about your ride yesterday, and now you'll be impelled to do better or go on a training course of sprints or play a game, all sorts of fun stuff. But that's a challenge, right? One way I was talking to Landry's and other people, I was saying, I now see the world with an imaginary database. Every square yard has an imaginary database. Because when I'm standing here, I'm in a slightly different context than if I'm standing here. And if you look at the world that way, and what does this database need on it? It needs to know, are you walking through that square? Are you standing on that square? Are you talking? Are you listening? And all of that context is going to be in this imaginary database, and it's going to be communicated to these glasses in the future, and the self-driving car, and whatever else is going to come. I just gave that talk because the investors are thinking about this. Ron Conway told me Highlight was one of his favorite companies, and he asked me about Alahar. The investors are thinking about this world because investors think about skating to where the puck will be. Where's the puck going to be in 18 months? Because if a kid walks in today, they have to think about 18 months, 24 months from now, because that's what they're really funding you for, is the future. They're not funding you to copy something today, right? Uber cab has already been done, so now if you want to do an Uber cab, you have to come up with something new. And if you start talking to Mark and Andreessen about, well, in the future when we have these Google glasses on, Uber cab's going to look lame because, and if you have a story, you might get funded, right? It also helps you. It helps me as a journalist think through think through and filter through all these ideas. I mean, the reason I put Twitter up here is so you can see the inbound, and the noise level that we all deal with. It's you see lots of company names up here discussed. There's New Relic and Windows Azure. There's so much new stuff discussed that I filter it in my head. TechCrunch filters it in their editorial system. GigaOM does the same thing. Rewrite Web does the same thing. But if I'm thinking about where the future's going and where the investors' minds are going, then when I see a new idea that I didn't expect to see, I have some context of where that fits into the world, and I can explain it to my readers and how it informs them about this trend that I'm seeing, which is this move to the contextual age. Does that all make sense? It's a little bit weird. I'm in a weird headspace thinking about this Google Glasses world. But this world of new stuff coming to me every few seconds is part of this singularity world, this new world that we're heading toward. We're getting faced with so much information, and we need filtering systems to filter down, because normal people can't handle this. I can't handle it. I built this, and I can't look at it for more than about an hour before my mind goes crazy. So I usually don't even look at this kind of view. I look at a list view where I have 500 tech journalists or 500 investors or 500 entrepreneurs that I listen to. And Google, Facebook, by the way, you notice I have 3,000 people. This doesn't move very fast because they know the same thing. That normal people can't do this. And normal people, when they see noise like this, they get less addicted. Facebook is extremely addicting because they're trying to pick 10 really emotionally impactful things to put on your screen. And that's why he uses, Zuckerberg's brilliant. He used the word friend. And to me, friend is an algorithm. It's not what it means in real life, right? Real life, it means somebody we hang out with, we will help us move, we'll come to the hospital if we're in the hospital, that kind of thing, right? Normal, right? That's a real life friend. Facebook friend to me is an algorithm. When you friend somebody, that means, all it means to me is I see your thing and you see my thing. And my wife, Zuckerberg, by using the word friend, meant that normal people would only put people on their page that they had an emotional connection with. It was very brilliant. Google uses +1, and Google has a lot more noise to people. They are not, why isn't Google Plus as addictive as Facebook? Because you put stuff on there that you aren't quite as emotionally connected to or impacted by. He's building a contextual system. And this is, I think, where he's going with his business strategy. He's building a system that understands our context in the world, and he's protecting it. By the way, I'm blocked from adding friends right now. Why?
5,000.
Yeah. What?
You reached 5,000.
No.
You added too many new.
I added too many people who reported me as not knowing me. And in every other system, that is not a problem. But in Zuckerberg's system, that is noise. It introduces noise into the system, and he doesn't like that because it introduces noise into this contextual system, which is going to make his system less addictive and less useful in the future. Where else would I go with some of this stuff? Anyway, he uses words like, you know. Google uses +1. +1's like, okay. Like means I like that, you know. And in fact, we all have that internal problem when we see some bad photo, and we want to tell our friends about it or want to say, hey, thanks for sharing that with me, but it's a nasty photo of something. I don't like that, but I can +1 that, right? Because +1ing is different than like. Like is a very emotional word, and so that's why I studied how people are liking things, because that tells me a lot about where the future business value of companies is going to come. Why did Instagram get bought for $1 billion? Other than to keep it out of Apple's hands, which is an interesting discussion point, and Apple or Twitter, they were both bidding on it. If you think about it, one photo turns into 4 to 20 likes. Just one photo. I take a picture of you right now, it joins our social graphs. Without us saying we're friends, you know, Instagram is the only system that applies GPS to almost every photo. So it knows we're here at Rocket Space. That puts us into a very different context than anybody else in the world. We're probably interested in entrepreneurialism if you're here, right? You're probably into tech if you're here. So it tells his system a lot about who you are and who I am, just from one photo. And if you take 1,000 or 3,000 like I did, you tell Zuckerberg quite a bit about yourself. The more he knows about you, the better his media system, his media engine can serve you, which includes ads, but it's not only, you don't see any ads here. It's, the ads are hidden right now underneath this. But the ads are useful, but this serves everything to you. And in the future, you're going to be walking down the street, and it's going to know exactly, or it's going to try to guess what you need to know based on the context of what you're going to do. And it's going to know what you're going to do. Right? When I get the self-driving car in 10, 20 years, 10, 15 years, when I can afford one, right now it's $300,000 just to buy the electronics and sensors, but I know that price slope comes down. I remember being over Steve Wozniak's house in 1989, and he had the first dye sublimation color printer in Silicon Valley, and it was $45,000. I said, man, someday I can save up and buy. Well, today a $70 printer is better, right? So the price slope brings hardware prices down at N rate, and we know that. People have talked about that in lots of books. So when I get that self-driving car in about 10, 15 years, it's going to know where to take me, right? Because it already knows where I work, my patterns. My phone already knows this. Place me already knows my favorite gas station, whether or not I go to church, which strip clubs in Amsterdam I've been to. It does. It knows it. And I can show you. Where my son goes to school, when do I drive him to school? Um, you know, when do I go to work? And it's going to know my calendar. That I already tell Google Calendar every address, every meeting, every date, right? I've already calendarified my life. That's why I was so pissed off when Google spammed my calendar and put shit on it that I didn't approve. Yeah, so where are we going to go with this? You know, this is a little taste of my life and where I think things are going. That gives you a taste of how your company can fit in. You know, what's your company going to look like in this new world as people get these Google glasses? Are you going to have an app that delivers something into those glasses? Or is going to be empowered or enabled to deliver something into those glasses? Because like if I'm in a driving context, Google's going to shut off a lot of the stuff and say, sorry, you're not allowed to have things in my screen because Google's going to get sued if I get distracted by these glasses. So it's only going to let certain kinds of traffic information or really big news that I need to know, like right now, into my glasses view, or other things. It'll be really interesting to see where they go with this. Already, Zuckerberg is being pretty harsh about some content. You know, that gets put up here. You know, the kinds of things he's picking is very interesting to think about and study. And it's going to be very interesting to see Facebook's point of view on this contextual system versus Google's point of view. And Apple doesn't have one yet, but Apple has a lot of knowledge. Amazon doesn't have one, other than they know our buying behavior, which is a big part of this, right? If I know everything you buy in life, your books, your media, your music, your video shows, and everything in your house, I know a lot about you. And Zuckerberg would like to know that. So that informs sort of like what could Amazon's cell phone look like compared to a Facebook cell phone, compared to an Apple cell phone, compared to whatever. And so I think about that. And when I hear pitches, I'm filtering it based on, does that have potential value to Amazon, Microsoft, or Apple? That makes it somewhat a little bit more interesting than usual. And does it fit into my other worldview, which is mobile is important, iPad or tablets is important, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, does that make sense? I go through this filtering mechanism when I'm seeing press, seeing emails and stuff like that. And I think most journalists do that. Most journalists talk through how important is this company to pay attention to? Should we really hack the shit out of it? That's sort of how we talk back behind the stage. You know, I've been a judge in TechCrunch Disrupt and stuff, and when you get back there, it's like cool technology, cool pitch. Yeah.
So we're talking about all this contextual stuff. I know that you're a journalist. What would you say for the aspiring entrepreneur, because a lot of us here are the most effective ways of getting publicity in the right way in this new contextual world?
Well, prototype and make sure that nobody will ever see it in between these 2 points, right? That might get me going. It might say, hey, this is the photo sharing app for the Apple engineering team, and which would have gotten him a hype. It was all about how he pitched it. He pitched it that way. Because I didn't think that his main use case was gonna go. I just don't think it will go. I've talked to lots of people who are not on Facebook, and they're not gonna use a photo sharing app period because they're not sharers. They're not people who want to put something on into a space where we can see it. You know, they're very anti-computer. You know, and so I wasn't thinking that was going to go, but this Apple engineering photo sharing idea, maybe, yeah. And so part of it is just talking to a lot of people and seeing, does this idea go? A highlight, for instance, I found, because I was at the first party where Paul Davison launched it, and I watched it go from his corner over to the other corner of the party within an hour, because he got 3 people on it, and they all told other people, get on this thing, this is cool. I'm like, what is that cool thing you're showing other people? And, oh, I'm not supposed to tell you, you're a journalist. Well, come on, man. We'll go talk to Paul, you know. And Paul let me know, please. He begged me not to cover it. He said, it's not ready for TechCrunch yet. You know, it's not ready for the public to see this yet. He wanted to come out at near South by Southwest and get it bug tested, and you know, he still has bugs, right? Just the good one tonight. Yeah, so some of the things are accidental. You know, Highlight got hyped because I saw it at a party and I saw how excited people were about it, which is actually how I like to see companies. You know, Instagram did not come out in the New York Times. I first saw it walking through something like Rocket Space. And I didn't get to talk about it then because he did the same thing Paul did. I'll put it on your phone, but don't tell anybody about it. I just try it out, see what it does. And that got me addicted to it, and in a way that was holistic. So, you know, in my out of office message now that everybody gets if they send me an email, I say, please give me a couple months with your product so I can have that same kind of experience with it that I had with Flipboard. I had Series 6 months before it launched, right? Partly because they slipped hates after they first showed it to me, but it was obvious to me that was going to be an important product the first time I saw it. Right? Saludo was 3 months before they launched it. TechCrunch Disrupt. The best companies give the whole marketplace time to absorb and to think about the story. Those stories make better hype long term. It's not hype, it's built on, hey, I've been using this for 2 months and man, you should see what goes on this thing. It's like unbelievable. I get a taxi in like 5 minutes in San Francisco and I can see the taxi come toward me. And you know, whatever the story is, the more people you have to tell that story on your behalf, the better your chances of going viral and getting fans like that are, I think. And also the product gets better. You know, Mike McHugh at Flipboard said, yeah, we put Twitter lists in because you asked for it. He said, we never even thought about that before we showed it to you. And so each person you show something to helps you iterate and get closer to a perfect product, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'll get you next. Sorry about that. Yeah.
That was a good example for consumer-facing products. Do you have any advice for like enterprise products that you want to get covered?
Same thing. You know, how did Yammer build a $1 billion business? They decided not to go in the front door of an enterprise. They knew that the sales cycle of going into the CTO and saying, hey, we got this cool new social software thing that's going to help your employees talk to each other better, and it's going to make you more efficient and productive. The CTO would go, get out of my office. Yeah? Who are you? You don't need. I have a meeting with SAP next hour. Come on, get out of here. What he did, what Yammer did was, oh, this Twitter thing is happening in consumer world. Should be perfectly good at work world too. Let's build it for work, but let's distribute it virally, person by person. Now he did launch it at TechCrunch Disrupt, right? And he won TechCrunch Disrupt. So that's one thing. If you can win TechCrunch Disrupt or win, if you're gonna, and I can tell just by looking at you whether you're gonna be in the top 3. It's apparent. You know, if you have your business plan, your story down, your product looks great. I tried with 3 friends, and 3 friends go, yeah, this is cool. You know, it's apparent that you're going to be in the top because most companies at TechCrunch Disrupt really suck. It's true. I sat through lots of demos there at Jason Calcampus's conference. Most of them are forgettable, not usable, or answering a problem that doesn't exist with us, right? So I don't know if that answered the question. Yeah, it's enterprise. So think about non-traditional ways to get it to the enterprise. Think about ways to be 10, 20 times better than what exists. So if you're going to go against SharePoint, you better have something dramatic that you can walk into the CTO's office and say, yeah, you're using that SharePoint thing, we're 10 times cheaper, or we're 10 times cheaper and 10 times faster, or we're 10 times cheaper, 10 times faster, and we're more productive. And by the way, you don't need to own a data center anymore. We'll host that for you. That's sort of Salesforce's pitch, right?
I just spent more sense of talking to the editorials and the bloggers because they don't get that much experience hands-on.
Yeah, well, and they have a bias against it, enterprise.
Right.
So you know that. So don't. David Sachs at Yammer didn't really. He knew that it would spread virally once he got enough. Once you get 40 people to try something, if it's really good. If I had the world's cure for cancer and showed it to just you tonight, it would hit 15 million people in 24 hours. And I know this because when I quit Microsoft, I told fewer people than are in this room tonight. And within 24 hours, Wagner Edstrom said I had 15 million media impressions. I was on the front page of the Wall Street Journal. I mean, all over the place. All from 4 or 5 conversations. So if you have something killer, it doesn't matter. It's going to go anyway. It doesn't matter whether TechCrunch covers it. In fact, Flipboard wasn't in TechCrunch, right? TechCrunch, in fact, banned them because I blew it with them. Little games. If they're not in the first group to go out with the press, they banish you. They put you on the blacklist for a while. And they did that to Flipboard. Did it matter? No. Who else? Siri wasn't talked about on TechCrunch. They did not get exclusive. They didn't cover Siri for months. Didn't matter. If you have a great product, people will find out about it because we can't keep our mouths shut. That's the truth of the matter. So there was a question? Yeah.
Yes, my name is Lee. So I have a question. You talked about Instagram bought by Facebook for $1 billion. And you asked, why did they buy Instagram for $1 billion? And your theory was to say that they bought the tool. And I have another theory, and I would like to get your argument for that.
Well, I think they built a great database that's worth a lot of money because it makes that engine work. Facebook is like, he built an engine, it's like a V8 engine in your car, but if you don't give it your lights, if you don't tell it anything about yourself, it's like an engine that is only running on 3 cylinders. It runs, but it runs really badly. And so if he gets another 4 likes per picture from you, that engine starts working, and therefore you get really addicted to Facebook, right? But anyways.
I mean, think about it. Instagram stopped growing by 100,000 users the first week to 200,000 users the second week. And at the end of 18 months, there were about, I think, 55 million users. I think Facebook bought users community, which is the black goal for any startup because buying users' community, it's buying their credibility among users.
Absolutely.
And they are establishing the empire of Facebook in front of
Absolutely.
Google.
But, and this is where Zuckerberg's brilliant. Flickr had just as many users and couldn't monetize, or couldn't monetize very well with an advertising method. Flickr charges you for the pro account, and so they use a premium model. But think about it. There's not enough data in one photo to tell an advertiser whether they want to be next to that photo or not. Zuckerberg, though, has that data. He knows who you are apart from that photo. Because you've already told, how many people are not on Facebook here? Yeah. One. I'm kidding. In other words, everybody in this room is on Facebook. And we've told it our gender, our family structure, our politics, our religion, our schooling, and if you told it any likes at all, you told it your music, your sports, things that you like, on and on and on and on and on. So Zuckerberg already knows who I am, and now if you're Instagram and you put a picture up, or I put a picture up, he can put an ad next to that picture that's very, very targeted and very demographically, targeted demographically in a way that no other system can. And so Zuckerberg said, I see a way to make money with this thing, and billions of dollars of money. I mean, Instagram is going to monetize with Facebook much better than if Google got it, or if Amazon got it, or if Apple got it. Now, Apple was going to build its own social network off of Instagram, because Apple and Microsoft both want Facebook, right? They have jealousy. And for Apple, it's a strategic thing. They need to really think through what Facebook is doing strategically to Apple, because every single Apple app, a good proportion, are hooked into Facebook already. So Facebook already has relationships with every developer, right, through the Open Graph, and soon he's going to have an ad network that pushes money out to developers. And soon after that, he's going to have some sort of device. And so he's going to get into Apple's base. And Apple knows this, but Apple hates Google more, so they're friendly with Facebook right now. And it's true, right? They both hate each other. And this is my question for the Google Glasses. I have a feeling, so I was a big tablet evangelist for a long time. And Microsoft, Apple showed us the new, right? Couldn't make that happen. John Scoble was way too early. But Microsoft, Bill Gates was out there, rah, 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 tablets are the future. Tablets are the future. You're all going to be carrying around a slate with maybe a pen, rah, rah, rah. Why couldn't Microsoft get that? Because they had cultural baggage that kept them from perfecting the product. And here's a little conversation. You're Steve Ballmer. All right, 7 years ago, I go in your office. Hey, Steve, this tablet thing is brilliant. Gates guy's brilliant. He's got something. But nobody at Microsoft likes using the tablet, which was true. Most engineers, had two big Dell monitors and were coding and landline. They don't use tablets. They don't get tablet people, right? Here's a few steps that we could do to make the tablet really a killer product that the mainstream would go nuts about. First, we got to get rid of this camera thing, because we can't code camera code. We need to make it cheaper. We've got to get the price down to $500, because that's what the normal person is willing to spend. They're not going to spend $1,000 on something experimental and different, right? So get rid of the camera to make it cheap. And our programmers, they suck at multitasking. They don't know how to write multitasking code, particularly for mobile devices, because if a user leaves something running in the background, it eats the battery, and the battery's gone in 2 hours. So we've got to get rid of multitasking. Turn it off. already Steve is looking, you're looking at me strange right now and you know what's coming, right? After two things that I was like, hey, that I'm going to recommend to Steve Bond. And you go, yeah, we need to hold the price down to 500. We need to get rid of this thing called Microsoft Office. It can't run on us. How do we get rid of it? Because, you know, these new people with these new tablets, they don't really want to do work. I would have gotten fired. Because inside Microsoft, we have a term for this. It's called strategy tax. You have to put Office and Windows into your product. Otherwise, you get fired. It's called a strategy tax, right? And by the way, no other Windows app can run on this thing. Steve didn't put Macintosh apps on this, right? Right? The iPad does not run Macintosh apps, does not have a menu bar like a Mac had, which tablet Windows Edition, tablet edition had a menu bar. And sure enough, you know, the new Surface computer looks a lot like the iPad, not like the old Windows computer. The new Surface RT does not run old Windows apps. He's copying Apple. He's copying because he doesn't know how to get ahead of the future, right? And it gets worse from there. Steve, we have to go to our best retail partner, Best Buy, and we have to tell them to take a leap. We're going to build our own retail channel around the world, our own retail stores with our own employees, and we're going to, because Best Buy cannot sell a tablet PC to save their lives. It's true. Me and Dave Weiner went to Best Buy right around the time that Apple stores came out, and they could not sell us a tablet. They had them on display. You couldn't touch them or use them. And the ones that had the styluses ripped off, so you couldn't, and the employees didn't know shit about them. And Steve Jobs walked around at Best Buy and saw this. He said, there is no way I'm going to train some 18-year-old kid to explain this to a normal person, you know? And it goes on and on. You know, that's the problem. So Microsoft had cultural baggage like that. Well, Google has cultural baggage like that, and I think it leaves opportunities for us. Google hates Facebook. They're not going to put the social stuff into the Google glasses. They might leave that to the third parties, you know, to plug it in or hack the glasses and put it in anyways, because Google's going to go, you know, right? But somebody's going to do it, and if Google doesn't do it, because there's cultural rules at Google, don't put Facebook. Don't take dependencies on Facebook at Google. Do not build dependencies on Facebook. Other than the YouTube team, they got away with it for some reason because they're not in Google. YouTube is 20 miles away from Mountain View. A little different thinkers over there. By the way, that's how you solve this problem. Xbox team was 2 miles away from headquarters, and they got to do different things. Like they didn't call it Windows. And so I'm wondering if it's going to be, and this is the problem, for investors and for all of us, we might be too early, even if we're betting on 18 months when these glasses get here. It might be another iteration or two before somebody perfects it and gets it right. But Google will show us the future at least, and I'm very confident in that. There's too many people working on it, and too many people dreaming about it. I gave a similar talk to BetaWorks in New York, and the engineers are like, yeah, nights and weekends are all about thinking about this new contextual world, and how do I do things with social that might be valuable on the glasses? How do I do things with photos that might be useful in the glasses? You know, everybody's dreaming again, which is really good for our industry, I think. Yeah.
If you could intern at one company this summer, what would it be?
Ooh. That's a tough question.
Forbes?
No, you know, I'd love to work. I'd love. I give 9 hours to Alahar, just hearing his pitch, because I'm seeing this future come at us, and I want to be somewhere where the future is happening, and where most people look at me strange when I say I picked that company, right? Because if you were, you know, back in 1976 and you told your parents, oh, I'm going to work for this thing called Apple Computer, they would all look at you weird. In fact, it was so weird that Steve Woz got kicked out of HP. You know, he wanted HP to build the Apple Computer. he wanted to work at HP. And he got kicked out of it twice, he asked, and brought his products. Man, I want to build this here. I don't want to go and build a company. Right? The idea was too weird. It was over the freaky line. It's just the freaky line was different back then, right? Doug Engelbart got kicked out of his own research lab. The guy who did the mother of all demos and showed us the future got kicked out of his own research lab because his ideas were too weird. That's where I want to. I want to be with somebody like that because God knows if it makes any money, but it might change the world, and therefore there will be money involved. There will be a business. There will be something at least interesting to watch from the inside, and that's sort of where I want to be. So highlight. I love Paul Davidson. I love Alohar. I love those guys because they don't have a product that anybody would recognize. The Wall Street Journal hasn't written about them yet, other than to say they're open freaky line. And so that's where I'd be skating to where the puck is going to be in 18 months, 24 months, 36 months. Self-driving cars. Aaron Patzer, who started Mint, I met him in the parking lot by accident. He goes, "Man, think about self-driving cars." I'm like, "You're crazy, man. Those aren't going to ride for 15 years." He goes, "Yeah, I know. But I'm going to build the sensors for those cars, and it's going to be better than David Hall's sensor, which is the LiDAR, right?" Which is an interesting story, too. Do you know that what Velodyne, the thing that spins on the top, he used to build subwoofers, right? So, in the valley, he's another valley guy. That's why I love living here. You can go and talk to those guys and say, "But how did we get from there to there?" You know? Yeah, well, I was just trying to win the DARPA challenge, and I got my ass kicked by Stanford. I said, I can never win the DARPA challenge, but I can sell Stanford a better sensor than they can make, so I'll do that. And he's making a shitload of sensors now for government, for all these self-driving cars. Yeah.
So I was just actually looking at the whole Windows Phone branding and Microsoft branding, and I was actually wondering, why don't they branch off the X, like they would the Xbox? Why don't they do the Xbox?
I'll tell you what, I said the same thing 2 years ago. I said the same thing 2 years ago because I knew that the Silicon Valley elite would never build for a product called Windows. Because in all of our heads, it's like, huh? Why would we build for Windows? We want to build for the future, not for what happened, right? And Xbox was a brand that we all liked. How many Xboxes are back there? A few. Yeah. Yeah. There's their answer. Because I asked the head strategist for Microsoft, why didn't you do that? They said, well, it's strategy tax. It's culture. It's arguing with everybody that we should call this thing, portable Xbox or something like that. It's like pulling teeth. Because Windows is a brand everybody in the world knows. And we've spent billions of dollars building that brand, and that brand has equity. That's how they talk about something. That brand has equity. People understand what that brand is. I think they're full of shit, but that's how they think. And they don't think of, we shouldn't call this thing Windows because it won't excite the developers who we need on board. Microsoft's really in a deep hole. How many people here are building for Windows 8? Yeah, that tells you something. That tells you something. It's really painful for them to learn that lesson. That answer right there is worth $1 billion to Microsoft, and they weren't here to see it. Yeah.
Going back to what this before, so there don't seem to be too many adventurous bloggers who will actually take time, use your service, give feedback on it, and go from there. I'm not asking anything. Just let me know what you think, really. Right?
You know why? Do you know why?
I have no idea.
Because the business model of blogging. I mean, if you're a blogger that has Google AdSense on your page, right? You're getting $5 per 1,000 views, and my average post gets like 5,000, 10,000 views, even with all the millions of followers on Google Plus. So, in other words, they're going to get paid $25 for that post. in advertising, which they have to pay for the building they're in and everything else. In other words, they can only spend 15 minutes on that post, otherwise they're not going to make a profit. So they are not going to try your product. Me on there, I have a different, but I only try. I mean, I have 80 apps on my iPhone. How many apps are there? 600,000, right? There is no way in hell I can try them all. So it's like winning the lottery just to get me to try something of yours. It really is. I look at my inbox and say, who's winning the lottery today? Because I can only, you know, I go to Y Combinator, there's 60 companies there. I can't try 60 products. I can try 2. And so I sit through all the demos and go, which one do I want? Which one do I think is going to be a big business? Which one has some mind-blowing cool technology? I'll do 3 interviews, 4 interviews, something like that. Maybe 10 if I'm really productive. But yeah, that sucks for you. It's just, it is. So you have to think about other ways to get to the market than assuming that somebody's going to try out your product and give it a glowing review. On the other hand, that's not an excuse not to try, right? And to try to get MG Siegler and me and Alexia or whoever is working at TechCrunch to try your product, because one or two of them will get through all that noise and will become the Uber that's on all of our phones. Because we, you know, when we get together in cabs, we all go, hey, did you see anything cool in the last 2 months? You know, do you have anything on your iPhone? Let me see your iPhone. In fact, Arrington steals my iPhone just to see if there's anything cool that he missed, right? And I steal his if I can.
It doesn't just have to be a heavy hitter. Just
no, but they're all the whole model is screwed up. It's you know, people who call themselves bloggers are usually trying to make money at it now. If you're really just doing it for fun, you're on Google Plus, mouth and off, you know, or doing a Quora answer. So I'm actually seeing people who are bringing me value on Quora and on Google Plus and on Facebook, because those are enthusiasts, and that's why I watched that 33,000 people. Those are all people who I handpicked based on that I saw some excitement somewhere. You know, they're an executive, they're an engineer, they're an early adopter. They talk about stuff, tech stuff all the time. That gets me to follow you, because I'm like you. I want to follow people who actually use this stuff, because that informs where I should go, right? If I see everybody talking about Pinterest, even though it's for women, I gotta take it seriously, right? Even though I wanted to ignore it for a year, I saw it a year before I you know, and then I started watching it, and I would tweet once in a while, this thing for women's happening, but I said, oh, the men are starting to show up, and right about the whole world was getting onto it, you know, and men were using it for sports teams collections and car collections and stuff, but it's still 80-20, 80% women on that service, 20% men. And so, yeah, even when I tried to ignore it, the stream in my face said, don't ignore this, Scoble, don't ignore this, Scoble, it's important, you know. And so that's what you have to do, is cause this landslide somehow. Same thing for the enterprise. You're not going to go into Procter & Gamble's CTO's office and talk him into something that he doesn't want to be talked into already. You know, so don't even go in and talk to him, or go and talk to him and take him out to coffee and see what he's thinking. But do an end around. Apple Computer did an end around the IT people, right? The people brought their own Apple computers in 1978, 79, 80 into work so they can run this new thing called Lotus, or it wasn't Lotus back then. It was a spreadsheet. VisiCalc. Yeah. My dad was into that. I was into all the games back then. I was in junior high when Apple started. But yeah, that's how they got into the enterprise, right? They didn't even try. It's like people, the hackers brought it in for them. Same thing with these glasses. Larry's not going to try to sell that to some CTO, but I bet these are going to be used on the factory line, you know, to teach people how to do things. You know, there's going to be augmented, you know, and we're already seeing that with some of the expensive ones, but they're expensive and they're not useful for anything else other than, you know, augmented reality of learning how to put a new engine in a Tesla or something like that. Yeah.
I know you travel a lot, but is there any cool stuff that you've seen in different parts of the world that you think come to mind for you?
Yeah, well, Face.com from Israel. The Israelis are doing crazy stuff, and that Xbox Connect came out of Israel. You know, Prime Sense, right? It's the sensor, and they have a new sensor that's mind blowing. Saludo came out of Israel. There's a lot that comes out of Israel. It's hard to find something that comes out of Berlin. SoundCloud. I love SoundCloud from Berlin. I didn't see anything mind-blowing at the last London. I saw a lot of little business ideas, or like an Uber competitor that is already taking over London because Uber couldn't grow fast. You know, that's a good business model, by the way. You know, come and see what's hot in San Francisco, and then steal it and take it someplace like Moscow or Mexico City or London, and own London before Uber can even get over there. And then
That's what I do.
That's what you do? Yeah. See, that's if I was a businessman and not just a dreamer and a loudmouth, that's what I would be doing. I'd be stealing ideas from Silicon Valley, taking them someplace else in the world. China, I mean, I remember hanging out with a venture capitalist. He goes, hey, I invested in this company that makes video screens and taxis. And we had to wait for 15 of them before one even showed up. And I'm like, 1 out of 15 taxis has a video screen in it, and you're making a shitload of money already off of this thing? Because he was proud of this. He was making like tens of millions of dollars a month already off of 1 out of every 15. I said, I could move here, copy your fucking idea, put them in 2 out of the other 20, and make as much money. If I was smart, that's what I would be doing, but I'm not that smart. Yeah.
So I recently read it.
Speaking to this.
You know, when I get pitched on the 14th copy of Pinterest that has a little twist to it, you know, you get bored. And it's like, show me a fucking self-driving car for once, you know? Show me a rocket. Let's talk about going to the moon. That's why these rich guys go nuts like that, because they get bored of hearing pitch after pitch after pitch of the same old thing. And when one does walk through that's really interesting, it, you know, then they spend a lot of effort on it. And yeah, the good Silicon Valley is like that. We dream big and do things that are mind-blowing and magic and innovative, right? But most of us aren't that smart, so we have to copy Pinterest. Or copy Pinterest, and if you're half smart, you copy Pinterest and take it to Moscow, where there is no Pinterest, right? And then you make lots of money doing that. You know, instead of trying to put a copy of Pinterest in San Francisco where everybody's already on Pinterest. So, yeah, it's a problem. But on the other hand, every so often I see something come through, you know, that does something crazy like face detection or like Alohar. I mean, God knows if he's going to make any money, but the fact that he's studying every sensor and thinking about the world in a different way, that's sort of interesting. I spend a whole hour with a video camera talking to him. You know? That's the kind of Silicon Valley I like to hear. It's like somebody trying to do something crazy. My favorite poster is the TechCrunch Pirate poster, and it says, "I'm not delusional. I'm an entrepreneur." Right? And when I meet somebody who's thinking like that, I think of that poster. I think, you know, this guy's doing something crazy that everybody's like, "Why are you doing that?" You know? Anything else? Yeah.
And do you see Apple maybe coming up with some wearable tech?
Yeah. Oh.
I can see it again.
Okay. Yeah.
Do you see Apple and Microsoft coming up with some wearable tech that could compete with Google?
Yeah, the question is, do you see Microsoft or Apple coming up with wearable technology? Absolutely. I mean, if you go to Microsoft Research and go into Andy Wilson's lab, Andy Wilson built a lot of demos for Bill Gates, and he's really, really brilliant. And was very early on use of gestures. He came up with the prototypes that became the original Surface computer, the desk that, you know. And God, when I worked there, this was 7 years ago, he was showing me stuff that's still pretty mind-blowing with cameras and gestures. He has a room that you walk into, and it puts a computing surface on every part of everything in the room. So the floor has a computing surface, and your finger is a computing surface. So I can take data out of my pocket and put it in yours. You know, all sorts of mind-blowing stuff like that. And he's thinking about that kind of world. But is he going to be able to productize it? That's the question, right? He's close to a lot of things that are going to be interesting in these glasses, or in this contextual world, because it's not just going to be glasses, right? It's going to be other things in our houses and our cars that are going to know about us and are going to serve us. And so, yeah, they have lots of patents. One guy there has 6,000 patents. One guy. And Motorola proved that patents are worth $500,000 each. The one guy has 6,000. One guy. What's really funny is, by the way, is the number one guy at Microsoft in terms of patents has more than twice the patents of the number two guy. So how did he get so productive? And by the way, you get $1,500 at Microsoft for each patent. And that's pretty standard in the industry, right? When you patent something, you get a gift from the company. And so he has a stack of black cubes, and it's crazy. Anyways.
Yeah, if you had to take a guess about one or two of these ideas that have been around for a long time but have not really been palatable to the consumer, what do you think is coming out in the next sort of 12 to 24 months?
Well, we're seeing a whole bunch of assistants. Google Now is a great example of that, right? Google Now on the new Android, I should have brought it tonight, but the new Android is already telling you about stuff in your life, like, hey, you better leave right now, you're meeting in an hour. It's an hour away and the traffic's bad, so you better leave right now. SRI Lab is already coming out with something this fall that's contextualized. Bomb by here is working on something really cool. Mark and Andreessen should pay attention to them. So probably next week we're going to hear about that. And that's contextual in the contextual space. So yeah, there's precursors. I call these precursors of something major coming. And I don't know, have any of you been working on any of this stuff or thinking about it? Or, no, not yet. It's interesting. Challenge them too. So, the challenge came out of, by the way, talking to one of the government people in London. I said, can you digitize your city before anybody else? In other words, can you build this database context where I'm going to walk into each piece of the database, and as I walk into it, it's going to tell me something about where I am. Can you do that before anybody else? Because then you can get geeks to move there to build on top of it, right? That becomes a platform that you build new kinds of apps or things in the glasses or things in the car that will add value to people's lives 10 years from now, right? Because he and I were talking about, well, how do you build another San Francisco? It's like, that's wrong question. How do you build a digital city that attracts geeks? Because geeks would want to, if I got these Google glasses, I want to go to places that are set up for the Google glasses that will show me and my friends a new world in these glasses, right?
Surely like Foursquare and probably precursors too.
Yep. And if you see Foursquare, I mean, Foursquare certainly is that, you check in here and it tells you all sorts of stuff about the area you're in. That's certainly Dennis has been thinking about this stuff for 10 years, and it's still not perfect. Still has a long way to go. Anything else? Yeah.
What's your take on the leap motion?
I haven't seen the leap motion, so mind blowing. Interesting. That's on my calendar to see. So, what does it do for remind me?
Connectors.
It's like,
It's connect, but much more accurate.
Okay.
Yeah, you can draw.
Another precursor.
Play Angry Birds with it.
But in the air. Okay. All right. I'm gonna see that short soon. So, yeah. Can't see it all, man. It's just can't see it all. I tried, but I can't see it all. Anything else before we go?
The most it's like 10 to 8, so maybe 1 or 2 questions left.
Yeah. Anything? Great. Except I met one of his, this is Bill Gates? Or who was this talk?
Oh, the cyber highlight, Paul Wilson.
Yeah, he's thinking along my lines. And I met this guy named Peter Piot, P-I-O-T. I knew his name because he was wearing a badge. I knew he was interesting because he was at the World Economic Forum, which you don't get to go to that unless you're either bloody rich or interesting. And even rich people can't get in there. I can't get my CEO in there, and he's a billionaire, right? So I knew his name. I knew that he was rich or interesting. I didn't know that he was rich. I just knew he was interesting. And I knew that he worked for the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So I knew 3 things. And I was like you, I'm smart. I go up to him and say, what's up? And we talked for a little while, and I figured out very quickly that he has an IQ, 160 or something. Crazy, smart. Because you could tell that by talking to people. Smart people like that use language in a way that I can't. His mind is lit up in a way that mine's not. If it was, I would be working for Bill and Melinda Gates, not for somebody else. And I knew he was scientific by the language he was using and also the interactions other people were having with him. But I couldn't figure out who he was or what made him interesting, and people don't brag about that. I have a couple examples. So, of course, I go away, get on my computer because Wi-Fi didn't work, and I Google them. Wikipedia, first hit. Discover of the Ebola virus was the first one. I wish I had known that when I was having a conversation with him, because that I still would have had serendipity about who he was and stuff like that, but I would have had a lot different conversation and gotten to the heart of what made him interesting, right? And I had another example of that. I forget the lady's name. I'm really bad with names. But me and Mike Arrington were at the World Economic Forum sitting down, and we met some lady there, older lady, in her 50s. And hey, I forget her name, but hey Alice, what do you do? You're at Harvard, because we knew she worked at Harvard, said Harvard, and we knew her name. Oh, I'm a psychology professor there, And I continue the small talk, right? And Mike Arrington's over there Googling her. Well, I'm small talking with her, talking to her about psychology. Oh, my mom was a psychology professor, or psychology student at Santa Cruz University, and da-da-da. And Mike just interrupts us and yells, "Holy shit, Jennifer Aniston's playing you in a movie?" And she goes, "Yeah." She was the first tenured professor at Harvard. And they were making a movie about her, and on, and we would have never found that out if he hadn't have Googled her at that moment, and it totally changed the conversation we were having, right? And made it a lot more interesting, although I still can't remember her name. I'm going to Google it again. So, I disagree with you. I meet people so much. I just interviewed a CEO, and the guy at the front desk at Rackspace is really smart, and he Googles everybody coming in. And he comes in and goes, hey, that guy was on the MIT blackjack team, and they made a movie out of him. I would never have known that if he hadn't done that. And it totally changed the experience of meeting Jack Ma, right? I put up his video today. And now I get somebody to go to Vegas. Which is really what you want to do if you want to have a great life, is take that guy to Vegas. Because I guarantee you'll have a better time than I usually do in Vegas. Anyways. What?
Is that like, there's a lot of, so let's say like in San Francisco it's ridiculous. Like I'm here for a month. The amount of talent in the city is like crazy. Like, I was at a cafe for a company and I ran to Kevin's shop. I was like, you're Kevin.
Yeah.
So coming for a $1 billion, right? And so assuming that people around you then think that concept makes a lot of sense. You could be in the middle of like, oh god. You know what I mean? And it's a gas station. You could be on highlight.
Here's a clue. Every place has talent. It's just not as whacked out as our place. But every place has been, Boris Becker, I was in a Facebook press conference in London, and Boris Becker walked in, right? I didn't know who he was. But luckily somebody pointed out, hey, Boris Becker, the famous tennis player, just walked in, and you want to talk to him? I was like, no. But, there's all sorts of interesting people sitting next to you on the plane. Every time I get to know somebody next to me, it's mind-blowing. Okay, here's a good story. I go up to Microsoft and interview for my job, and I'm flying back. I'm in the last aisle in the cattle call. Last aisle. And I'm sitting next to somebody. He had, this was 9 years ago now. He had a BlackBerry. He's a kid. Because I knew we could at least, understand each other. Yeah, he's a geek. Well, it turns out he's Larry Tesler, VP of Engineering at Amazon. He's the guy who was on the committee to hire Steve Jobs. He invented cut and paste. By the way, I didn't know that until last week. So I was sitting next to the guy who invented cut and paste, and I didn't know that until somebody pointed out, oh yeah, Larry Tesler. And I learned that on Quora, actually. Somebody asked who invented cut and paste. Like, wow, that's cool. Yeah.
Somewhat along the same lines that you were saying.
Yeah. A whole semester of studying an hour every morning with him, and he was only stopped 3 times. Truth is, nobody comes up to anybody and asks who they are. So it's only freaks like me who, chase after a certain kind of person. And even when I usually like talking to even normal. I sat next to a baseball player one time in a plane and talked about iPhone apps. And how they're using technology in sports and stuff. There's always something that you can talk to. And if not, you go on. It's most people don't even try. And maybe I think these technologies are going to get a few more people to try, which will make us a little bit more connected, I think.
My question was basically, doesn't it limit the amount of information that you're getting, since you're always hand selecting the people that you're talking to?
Except I met the head of Al Jazeera on here, on Highlight, and I said, that's not going to be it. I wouldn't interview him necessarily. I asked him, can I have breakfast with you? And he said, yeah. Right? And he didn't know who I was. He just saw me on Highlight, right? I think this new world will, this is the bubble problem, the filter problem. There's a TED talk about the filter problem, that if you only, if you only signal to this new contextual world that you're interested in democratic politics, you're not going to hear the conservative point of view, and you're never going to hear about any conservative. I find that actually is very, very false, because people naturally like to hear the opposite and like to make fun of them, so they pull other points of view into their little spheres to have fun with. It's fun to debate stuff, you know. And there's that, and then there's the Facebook team that does the feed relevancy. They add 20% of randomness in that, just to see if you're going to click on it, because every 10 things that they're going to show you is a theory. That theory is informed by who you are or who it thinks you are. And you already know from my facts that it's imperfect. It doesn't know you very well because you haven't told it who you are. You've only liked 25 things. So it has to have a little theory. Like, this guy likes San Francisco Giants. He's into golfing and he likes music. Well, I'm just making something up. So I'm going to show you those 10 things. But I'm going to show you once in a while something from some other sport or some other music or some other point of view. And then they're going to recalculate the theory. They're always going to add that randomness in there, because if they only take you down one path, you're going to get bored with it. Humans get bored really fast. If all I see is Rush Limbaugh all day long, because I clicked like on a conservative talk show or something like that, I'm going to get really bored with that point of view quickly if I'm at all awake. And if I'm not awake, that person's going to listen to Rush anyways. That's all they're listening to, right? Anyways, I've rambled on enough, and I'll stick around. Thank you.
Thank you.